All right, so welcome back. Now let's get right into the conversation. Now, this is Essential Special, like I said earlier. And let's start things quickly by highlighting some of the major headlines that made 2024. First up, let's look at Funke Akindele's A Tribe Called Judah. It hit 1 billion naira in the box office. That's about like 1.4 in the end. Then veteran actor Olu Jacobs breaks silence of rumored death experience. I remember that happened as well. Now, controversial cross-dresser Bobrisky and the Best Dressed Awards saga. That was a huge situation that went down there as well. Nigerian veteran actor Mr. Ibu passed away at the age of 62. Yes. Now, the movie streaming platform Prime Video exited Nigeria as well. That was one of the major conversations that happened this year. Now, Nollywood actor Junior Pope died during a boat accident, which caused a whole conversation. Then Alima Abubakar was slammed a 10 million naira lawsuit for, that happened as well. Then the veteran actor Baba Subebe also died as well. And Nollywood and singer Oyeka Owenu also passed away at the age of 72. Now, the AGN suspended Halima Abubakar for misconduct as well this year. And there was a controversy between Fowles, the bad guy, and Very Dark Man. This happened due to the Bobrisky statement that came out. And there, another tragedy hit the Nollywood industry as Shantytown's director, Dimeji Ajibola, passed away as well this year. And movie streaming platform Netflix, they responded to the alleged exit from Nigeria, saying that they were not going anywhere. I believe you saw that as well. And again, Funke Akindele made the news again with Everybody Loves Jennifer breaking cinema records. And Femi Adebayo's release, Seven Doors, also took center stage. Wow. So I just had to give you that quick highlights on things that happened in this 2024 that stood out. And joining me on the show today are very special guests. We're going to having an lengthy conversation about the film industry and how it's supposed to increase. Now, our guests are going to be joining me via Zoom. I have Desmond Ebuwa Ekunwe. He's a filmmaker. Yes, and we have Ella Chikezie as well. That's a creative producer and founder of Fly Grade Media, and Obinna Okerekeocha, that's the director of content at Moneypoint Incorporated. I believe, Obinna, how are you doing? I see that you're there already. How are you doing, sir? Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Can you
Great.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear. Great stuff.
Awesome.
Great stuff.
Great stuff. Great to be here.
Yeah, so just to kick things on the road, we're talking about the film industry. We're talking about Nollywood in 2024 and the hits, the misses, and the box office achievements. So how would you describe the year 2024 in Nollywood? I'd like to hear you, what you think.
I think it's been a roller coaster ride, as you were reeling out the happenstances of 2025. I was like, wow, it's really been a long year. I think so. Two things stand out for me. I think first of all, the fact that we had the first Nollywood film, A Tribe Called Judah, by the unstoppable Funke Akindele, hitting passing the 1 billion naira mark. I think that was really, really something special. I think that it served as a sort of beacon of light for other producers that, look, we can actually hit those heights if you really push. Funke is a bit of a phenomenon, but it's great to see that we can do those numbers. And I think the other thing that also really got my attention, because I was involved in a lot of these conversations where the streaming platforms and really how businesses have turned for them and stuff like that. I think the first one has to do with Prime Video. And I think that at the end of the day, it was really a business decision, because at the end of the day, this is a business that is involved in actually getting subscriptions. So basically you pay a subscription fee and you have access to content. But then again, if that if those subscription fees are not coming in for whatever reason, it hampers business. And Prime Video made it very clear. I think they put out a very, very well articulated press statement that they will not be investing in originals. I think it's very, very important to make that distinction, that they won't be investing in originals. And this was something that was happening on the continent, and I think some places in Asia as well. So it wasn't just Africa, but they still license content. Licensing of content is still happening on Prime Video.
Yes.
And then I guess the biggest one where that's too fresh on the minds of a lot of people is Netflix, and pretty much the fact that we've had a lot of statements by we had Kulia talk, then we had basketball talk, then we had a lot of people across various corners of social media speak. And I think it's, as somebody who's very close to the industry, it's very important to note that they're making some changes that are not necessarily that don't allude to the fact that they're leaving. So yes, they are not leaving. They will still continue to license content, but certain things are going to change. It won't be business as usual, because if you look at it, it's a subscription-based business. I tell people that Netflix is a publicly quoted company on Wall Street that has shareholders. They have to report, profits. At the end of the day, it's a business. So if a CFO sitting in Amsterdam or in Los Angeles looks at the books and says, look, we spend X amount of money, and how much money are we making in terms of subscriptions? It's really a no-brainer if they decide to pivot or they change their strategy. So what has happened is that there won't be investments in originals, and they're going back to a model where you have to go through their accredited distributors, and where your title has to go to cinema. So you go through theatrical distribution, and it does it rounds, and then you go through an aggregator or distributor, and then they consider the content before they take it on. So it's really that's really the model that they have chosen to go by. So they're still very much doing business. It's just that the things will change a bit in terms of how the acquisition strategy. That's really what it is. So I think it was an interesting year, and I think in having these deeper conversations about where we are as an industry, I think that we are a place where we need to start thinking about our distribution, because I think distribution is the biggest challenge we have in Nollywood. Everybody is making film. Your auntie, your uncle, your friend, your even people who are in venture capital are now investing in film. Everybody has a leg in the film. It has a leg in Nollywood. So, but the problem is, I was at a film forum, as in the Africa Finance Film Forum, and we had this telling conversations, and somebody said, look, if we didn't produce films for another 2, 3, 4 months, we wouldn't be starved of anything, because we're overproduced. You go to YouTube, there are movies. You go to streaming platforms, there are movies. The question is, how many people are getting to see these movies? How are producers making back their money? We have an unfortunate situation where somebody spends 300 million, 400 million, makes a film, and is literally doing theatrics on social media to get his film sold. This should not be the case. You literally go cap in hand begging to get your film sold. I think the real focus for, I call it intelligent investing, should be around building sustainable distribution channels. Just yesterday, I was at the launch of Circuits, which is a new, I'm not plugging anything, but it's something that has also happened. The launch of should I say, a distribution platform that is essentially a virtual cinema that is Nigerian, so it's called Circuit, and it's launching today, actually. So we need to see a lot of all these kinds of developments and innovation, because I think that the real disruption that's going to happen for distribution is at the intersection of tech and media. And I think technology has a really strong, part to play in this. So for me, it's really around, taking stock of what has happened with the streamers, stepping back and saying, okay, you know what, it's time Nigerians really took and everybody within the film ecosystem took the business of distribution very, very seriously. YouTube is great, but I tell people, the servers for YouTube are not in Nigeria, and they're in America. One US policy can change that, and you don't have access to cash anymore in terms of revenue. So we need to build what is sustainable for us. We need to build and own what is ours, that kind of thing. And I feel that this is pretty much where it lies. And I think that for big streamers, they should be an option. They shouldn't be the solution, that kind of thing. And I'm beginning to hear things around community cinemas. That's something that some brands are building. My very good friend, Munisi Babatokwe of Nile Entertainment, is doing something in that regard. There are lots of people who are investing in community cinemas. So I think we're going to see a lot of that in 2025, So I think at the end of the day, big conversation we should be having is about distribution.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. Great conversation there, Obinna. And the fact that you've taken us there, I think we should just quickly dive into that, because you were speaking about the fact that one of the major issues we're facing in the film industry in Nollywood is distribution. And it has become a thing or a direct play of filmmakers to always think about these distribution companies when they decide to create a film, right? And is that the only way that these filmmakers can actually put their work out there? We're looking at these international distribution companies that come in, Netflix, Amazon, and Prime, and the rest of them. And this shook the industry for a bit because these platforms stopped funding or originals, like you said. So how can filmmakers now take back that control of, okay, even if we don't get these international distribution companies here, how can we still make sure that we put out our content and we can get seen globally?
Yeah. So I think so. I'm going to answer that question in two ways. So I think the first thing is to really if you look at what is the most important thing for a producer? A producer wants to make his money back. He's invested a lot of money and he's looking to make revenue and profit, right? So I think before I get to the global part of things, I think that we're not really exploiting the potential of our audience. And what do I mean by that? There is a huge part of the economic pyramid that is completely obscured from all of what happens in Nollywood. Like, for instance, if theatrical distribution and how much is the cinema ticket now? Cinema ticket costs about between 3 to 5 to 7,000 if you're watching IMAX, for instance. So imagine a situation where we're at about 270 million people. So imagine if 100 million people were able to pay 500 naira, 1,000 naira. You can do the math. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So what am I saying is I think that there's a massive potential that is completely untapped. And I think that community cinema and having local distribution. So imagine if you could turn, there was an opportunity to turn every football viewing center in local communities to viewing centers for film. I was at the film forum and somebody was talking about how somewhere in some in Francophone countries, in some local communities, they just rub like white chalk on the wall, they sit on stones, and distributors distribute films to those guys, and they watch the films there. So my point is, at the end of the day, it's about the experience. So we need to come down from this high house as, it must be in an air-conditioned place, or we must have, no. What is important is that, this is how India grew, essentially their industry, because community cinemas are pretty much the key to success. And there's something I learned lately, discussing with a friend, a professional colleague, and they talked about the bottom billion. That is something that we should be tapping into, because believe me, if we're able to get it, can you imagine if 100 million Nigerians were able to watch, anybody's film, whether it's Kemi's film or Jade's film or Kunle's film, they're able to watch those films, and pay a certain amount of money that is, below sub 5K or sub 2K. That's a lot of money already. Then in terms of, essentially finding the global, global footprint in terms of movies, I think it's really around, for instance, Circuit is Nigerian owned. It's built this platform where you can actually, it's for the diaspora. It's as long as it's online, people have access to it, that kind of thing. So I think it's really around, let's now invest in our own platforms. That we can see around the world. If you set up a website and you set up a main stuff for people to pay or people to watch it, it will be seen. I think the magic of it really relies in your marketing and how you're able to deliver that, tell the story of whatever brand or product that you have at the end of the day. So I think that these streaming platforms, they are businesses. So whenever the conditions are right, they will be back. But the point is that we need to be ready. And I'm not sure, and the readiness is not really around waiting for them. It's about creating our own. It's about putting our industry together, working together to see that everything around the industry works, from how our guilds work to how, our budgeting works, to how, people are well compensated on set, to, just, it's a whole thing. Nollywood needs to really get its act together. And I think that this is how we take it back. Yeah,
okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so still on the conversation that we're having right now, I believe my other guests are here as well. I believe Ella and Desmond. Can you guys hear me, Ella? Ella, can you hear me? Okay. I think they're having a bit of network issues, but we'll definitely connect with them because we're still talking about Nollywood and the conversations around that. I have Obinna as well. We're talking about the way forward for Nollywood, talking about the streaming giants and the effect they've had on Nollywood so far, looking at how far we have come. Now, well, let's take a step back a bit, Obinna. Let's look at the storytelling because as it is, a lot of people would say we are trying to make sure that we put out African or Nigerian content to the world. And because of production costs, sometimes it wouldn't be told as it should be because of the amount of funding we get to create or to recreate these stories. So how well do you think we can put this together to make sure that we don't dilute the content just because of the budget, and we make sure that we put it out the way it's supposed to be put out? Maybe that's one of the major issues we're facing when it comes to storytelling. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that funding is really important. I think obviously for you to put out anything or bring anything together, put together a team, or get out equipment or whatever it is, go to locations. You need money. You need money for those things. But what I will say to you might be a bit left left field, because I don't think that you need a lot of money to tell a great story. I think the magic of filmmaking and storytelling is really the craft of what kind of story are you telling?
Yes.
That kind of thing. And I think that people are more captured by stories. I mean, the reason why we love to watch movies growing up, or the reason why we invest our time in sitting down and watching a film, is because of the stories. You want to be taken to a place you've never been to before. You want to meet a character you've never met before. You want to be completely loved. You want to see something on screen and be totally blown away. You want to see how a car flips on a bridge 10 times, how this guy falls in love with this girl that doesn't deserve him. Stories. So at the end of the day, the key thing that where development should go and investment should be in the storytelling, in the script development, in the character development. Now, you need some basic level of funds to bring it to life. But what is important is that you invest in the storytelling phase, because what tends to happen is that we have these big budget movies, and then when you look at the meat of the story, it's left wanting. So because technology is now affordable, we have Aries, we have got Reds, we've got Panavisions, everything in terms of the gear. Everything looks great, sounds great, but then the soul of the entire thing is missing, because the soul of filmmaking is embedded in storytelling. The nucleus of it is storytelling. So yes, you need money to make the what I would call the product, but then again, and also do the marketing, because you've got the marketing, you need money for that, and you do your P&E and all that stuff. But the real meat of it is the story. Yeah.
Okay, Obinna, sorry to cut you. I just want to be sure that my other guests are online with us as well in this conversation. So Ella, can you hear me? Can Ella hear me? Can Desmond,
yes.
Can you hear me as well?
Hi, Ademo. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, finally.
Hello,
That's really nice. So we've been having the conversation about where we are now. I believe you've been listening to the conversation, but where we are now, we're talking about storytelling and what we need to do as a film industry to make sure that we still take out or churn out authentic stories without them being diluted because of production cost. So. And you can make references to the movies that you feel that, okay, the stories were right and the production was also up to par. So I would start with Ella, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you, Ademo.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, Ella. Go ahead.
Okay, for me, yeah, I mean, storytelling is king. I know people say content is king, but let me just say storytelling is king. If the story is well made or well told, when it comes to now producing it or funding or getting finance or funds to make the film, if you miss it at the storytelling stage, of course, it's going to affect, even if you have a big budget film, by the time you get to, by the time the story is poor or diluted, by the time you get to this stage of production, even if your story is great, if the money that you've made into this for this film, if the money is big and the story is whack, at the end of the day, it shows You understand? Because people actually stay for the story. The audience are there for the story. If the story is not good enough, you know, they watch a well-made film. At the end of the day, you know, they enjoy the production value, but the story at the end of the day is not appealing to them. So yes, I agree that storytelling is the number one thing that we need to focus on. We've in the past we've been privileged to like have big budget productions where the story is watered down and the story is just not good. You know, storytelling is actually key. So yes, we need a lot of focus needs to go into story development and investing in the process. So yeah, that's my take on it.
All right, all right. Ella, I'll take up on what you said. You said we've had a couple of. Ella, I believe you can hear me.
Mr. Obinna was saying that, yeah.
Okay, I believe I'll take up on what you said. You said something about we have a lot of big budget movies with terrible stories because probably they had a lot of funding, but the story wasn't right. So I would like to throw that to Desmond. Desmond, looking at the kind of movies or the big box office movies that we've put out there in the year 2024 and have, you know, created a level of impact, would you say those ones that are at the top, they got it right, story-wise, production-wise, and every other thing? What would you say about that? Hello, Desmond, can you hear me? Okay, I think we're having a bit of technical issues with them again, but Obinna, I believe you're still with me.
Yeah, very, very much so. I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, Obinna, before we take a quick break, I just want to get your view on this because I asked Desmond this same question. I said, looking at the top movies we have out there that had a huge budget, you know, they made rounds in the cinemas, they had, you know, great returns. Would you say they all got it right, story-wise, production-wise, and the likes? Would you say that quickly?
So I think it's a mix of both. I think that I think for instance, in the case, let's talk about the number one film.
Yes.
I mean, A Tribe Called Judah. I think that the story really resonated with people. I think that people were really taken by it. It had a strong message, and again, it was, you know, perfectly positioned at, you know, the end of the year, typical Christmas time, etc. And then it really did well, you know, that kind of thing. So I think it was a mix of both. What tends to happen with these big budget films is that there's a lot of, you know, so what tends to happen is that there's a huge focus on certain things, and so most of those things don't necessarily add to the story, because if somebody is going to spend their hard-earned money, they want to come and be entertained. Yes, you can show them, for instance, if it's a you know, something that's shot in the city, you want to showcase flashy cars, you know, ostentatious living and stuff like that. That's great, but that's not what the meat of the story. That's not what is the story. You know, why am I spending time here? So I think it's a mix of both. To be very honest, I think that a lot of movies that came out this year, stories were not the best. I could give on the average 6.5/10, you know, in terms of storytelling. But the production values were great nonetheless. You know, you liked what you see. You know, great camera angles, well color graded shots and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you know, the stories are not quite there yet, and I'm really hoping that in 2024 we really see an explosion of really compelling, you know, intriguing stories.
All right. Obinna, thank you for that. We'll take a quick break, though, but when we come back, we're still going to be discussing a lot more about the industry, and definitely you wouldn't want to miss this. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back after this break. All right, welcome back. It's still East Central Special, and we're looking at Nollywood, the film industry in Nigeria. And with me, I have a very interesting guest that we've been talking about what needs to be done, the hits, the misses, and every other thing in the Nollywood industry that needs to be put in place. And talking about my special guest with me right now is Mr. Obinna Okerekeocha. He's the director, content of Money Point Incorporated. Obinna, it's good you're still with me because let's talk about you made mention of distribution earlier, and that is one of the major concerns about a young filmmaker. I have a content, I put it together, it's how to get it out there. Now the concern is piracy. Now let's look at piracy. as one of the major conversations, because recently we can tell that because of the successes of some of these big films, that piracy is still a major concern when it comes to distribution. So how do you think we can tackle that successfully, or what ways can we work around it, looking at the situation?
It's interesting. It's quite an interesting one because I mean, for the longest time we've been talking about piracy. I think that the truth is it's something that we're going to keep. That conversation is not going to end anytime soon, unfortunately, because even for the really big streamers, Apple TV Plus, Paramount Plus, Hulu, Stars, Disney Plus, Netflix, etc. They still have those issues. I mean, there are people who watch shows shows in regions where they don't have platforms, but they can watch those shows. And how are they doing that? Because there are sites, that are essentially on the internet where you can dark sites where you can watch these things. I think it's really something that has to do with harnessing technology again to really fight this menace, that kind of thing, because it's really just the way that we have technology solutions that help content creation and helping the production value chain. We also have technology that aids piracy. They keep getting better, that kind of thing. So, so now the Nile Group, I keep mentioning them because I think that really, they're really doing their best to really combat this. They partnered with a company called DG Guardians, and DG Guardians really is I think a European firm that actually looks for systematically using technology, goes through a lot of sites, places, online communities like Telegram, WhatsApp, places, and deleting copies of films that they'll be distributing. So that kind of thing. So they're kind of like this army of tech agents that just go around plugging and weeding out content that belongs to people who they've actually got into business with. So I think that's a great model where it's almost like you're putting agents on the field and they're looking for where it is. But that's one solution, and I think that there should be other solutions, and that's why I talk about investment intelligence, where if you are looking, for instance, you are an investor listening to this, you should also look at the industry with a different type of prism in 2025. For instance, where are the people invested in technology that can actually, search and destroy piracy, that kind of thing. There are people, young stars who are, coders, developers, and they can actually, gear their know-how to building technology that can help fight piracy. That's one avenue to invest in, that kind of thing. Like I give you an example. You know that if you're watching Netflix on your phone and you try to screen grab it, it's going to show black. If you try to screen record it, it's show black.
Yes.
That's the level of technology we should be looking at. Building platforms or building that should be able to do things like that. So it's like I said, I remember accompanying my CEO to a bank, and we had some certain issues we wanted to discuss. And the head of IT was saying that fraud is not offered as a service, fraud as a service. So imagine piracy as a service. That's how serious. There are cartels that can, you can do fraud subscriptions. That's how crazy the dark world has become. So you can only fight that with technology, that kind of thing. So I feel that that's where investment intelligence, that's where investment should focus. Where are the technologies that can help stamp out and eradicate piracy completely? It's Hydra-headed, you cut off one head, something builds up. So we have to keep doing it. It has to be built into everybody's consciousness. And that's why you go to a cinema, they keep reinforcing, and piracy is a crime, everywhere we go. And I also, tell friends of mine, if you cannot pay for subscription, don't go to sites you're not supposed to go to, because you're part of the problem. So yeah. So,
Interesting. Well, like you said, looking at the situation, it's been here for a long time, and gradually would probably find things that we can use to settle these different loopholes that we face as the industry, grows, basically. So I believe Desmond there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello,
okay, great. Great stuff. Good to have you again, Desmond. So, Desmond, you're a filmmaker, right? And I would like to hear, let's talk about film marketing. Now, let's look at how so far, we've seen how movies for the past year, the big ones, the ones with the big budgets, come out, and the length they go in publicity and making sure that their film gets to every part of the society. Now, let's talk about film marketing. As a filmmaker, how important would you say that is? And we can also use the reference which Funke Akindele is doing right now. We can see from all her movies so far, there's always a strategy put in place to make sure that it's not just word of mouth. It goes beyond all that. So what do you have to say about this?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And Obinna has spoken so deeply about the themes that I'm very excited about in film. For marketing, I do think that what we need to do, what has been happening, we've seen, it now feels like in the Nollywood space, if your film is going to make it, you have to become friends with TikTok. But then I do not think that that's the right or a sustainable way to go about it. Funke has done, Funke Akindele has done greatly in that regard. Tony Abraham and a few others have done greatly in that regard. But I also think that it gives room for an opening for a different approach to marketing, because not all films require people to go on social media and dance. Not that there's a crime to that. Case in point is a film called Red Circle by filmmaker Nora Awolowo earlier in the year. When they were starting their pre-production and about to get into production, they had like this whole social media storm of a red marking on social media, and everybody was looking for, what's this? Is this a drink brand? What is this about? And then they drew everybody's attention to the trailer of the film pre-start of the production. So which means that there's a lot of room for us to rethink how we market our films beyond TikTok. But then in the Nigerian context, it almost feels like you have to marry TikTok challenges and think dance moves. And that's also a reflection of the fact that we do not have the necessary budget. In other industries, in Hollywood, you'd see film budgets stand at, say, $80 million, and then the marketing budget is ×2 of that. But we do not have that yet. So you have to do what you must do in the Nigerian context to sell your film, which sadly now is down.
Okay, so Ella, I believe you were involved in the Christmas in Lagos production, and this is also a production that was made to market a film. So tell us, why do you think that was necessary to put out content like that just to market a movie, to sell a movie?
Yeah, thank you for the question. There were for Christmas in Lagos, it's a film that is a big film. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you've seen the film, as much as the film is, is a prime original, it was very important that we needed to market it the way we did, because, I mean, if you don't market your film, who will market it for you? Do you get what I mean? I want to come from that angle. But Christmas is a time where people gather, families gather, they watch film, they have a good time. And this period, there are lots of films, coming out this period. So it was also important that we market the film the way we did, so that it could hit home with the people we are making the film for. Yes. And Christmas is something that is a period that everybody resonates with. It's a time to share love and give love. So we needed to market it. And beyond that, because we took so much time making this film that's so beautiful to watch, it was important that we market it, because you could make a good film, and if you don't market it the right way, or you don't market it, people would not know about that film. And Nollywood being a growing industry, it's very important that we market our films. Like, I agree with Desmond, like he said, not all films, would go that same route of TikTok, dance and all of that. Different films with different marketing styles. So we chose that way, that type of marketing, because it was what we wanted, people to connect with. We knew people would connect with it. So that's why we chose that route of marketing.
Okay,
so yeah, we tried to keep it as Nigerian as Lagos vibey as possible. So yeah, that's why we decided to go that route.
Okay, so I don't if Obinna is still there. Obinna, are you still with us?
Very much.
Okay.
Still here.
So Obinna, we've been having a very extensive conversation about the industry as well, and let's quickly talk about the things that we need to do, because 2025 is a fresh year, a fresh start, and so far we still have some situations that as the industry grows, we still need to tackle. We've spoken about piracy, we've spoken about distribution. So what else do you think that the industry needs to focus on to make sure that we can actually, make good returns in our investment when it comes to filmmaking?
Yeah. So this is very important. I think the first thing is to get organized as an industry. I think that our guilds need to work. When I mean work is they shouldn't become our guilds, the Producers Guild of Nigeria, Directors Guild of Nigeria, Cinematographer, all of that stuff. They shouldn't become government political pressure groups. They should actually defend the people that they work with. They should actually help people that they work with. They should be, these guilds should actually empower the people that, empower its people, that kind of thing. And I also believe that we need to treat our crew better on sets, because you hear all sorts of stories, of things happening on sets, how much are you paying, your crew members? How much are you paying the people that come on set? Do you, say you pay them X, but then again to an investor, and then what is actually on ground is completely different, that kind of thing. I feel that the industry should get to a point where people can actually have real careers. And I'm not talking about the producers, I'm talking about Grip, I'm talking about the guys that do Best Boys, I'm talking about all the little guys, Spark, all those guys who are on set, who do all the other jobs that people do not see because it's not that glamorous. They should be able to build a career. And that's where the industry should be at, in that kind of thing. I also feel that there should be a lot of transparency. One of the problems we have in our industry is there's the lack of data transparency. We do not know, so data around, okay, so what does the standard Nollywood budget look like? We can't guess. We're guessing it's a 300 million naira film. So but what's the breakdown? It's a 400 billion naira film. You get my point. There should be, people who want to invest should not invest blindly, because what tends to happen is that I tell you what tends to happen within this space. People invest in people. So you find out investors are, I'm investing in a Funke film. No, you're not necessarily saying I'm investing in Nollywood. I'm investing in Kunle. I'm investing in Jadi. I'm investing in Kemi. I'm investing in you see where I'm going to with this. We need to bring the industry to a point where it becomes an viable investment destination where there is transparent data around. If I put my film here, if I put my money here, I'm going to get X. You get my point. And I also feel that in building the industry, we need more cinema screens. That's for sure. We have less than 100 cinema screens in the entire country.
Okay.
So that tells you that because someone was doing the math, if the highest grossing film is about 1.4 billion naira, it means that, and we have 80 screens, it means that, so white people that can afford these tickets, it means just about the 300,000 people actually were responsible for that amount of money. So we're not even scratching the surface of our potential. So we need more cinema screens. We need, a lot of that stuff to happen. And again, I think, again, back to what I said before, we need to have more, investments around distribution. So basically, where are all the, technology touch points that can help build platforms that are Nigerian owned, that push our own content and our own films and TV shows and etc. So I feel that that's where it starts from. Having like for instance SAG-AFTRA that's in America, with the rise of AI and how AI has infiltrated screenwriting, they went on strike. They literally shut down the entire industry. That is what a strong guild can do, that kind of thing. They stand up for the rights of people, that kind of thing. So I think in a nutshell, these are the things that we should really be focusing on in trying to make the industry, a viable one in 2025.
All right, thank you. Ella and Desmond, I believe I just want to throw that question to you as well. What do you think are the things that we need to put in place quickly for Nollywood in 2025? What do you see the future and how we can make sure we achieve them as well? Quickly, 2025. Ella, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
So what I think we can do as we go into 2025 is to invest locally. I'm very excited about what Circuits.tv, the potential of what Circuits.tv would become, and I really, because of the idea of distributing films, Nollywood films, to regions and exploring what that is, because a lot of the times we just make films and then relinquish the IP or the rights to a streaming platform, say Netflix or Prime Video, and it's done. And then the filmmaker goes to bed and goes on to their next production. But now, as a filmmaker, when in film school, you're taught that your film is supposed to take on a life of its own. It's supposed to bring food to your table for life. And that's what I want to see moving forward. When we explore IPs that a film like Seven Doors, The Weeknd is showing to audiences strictly on Circuits of TV within Nigeria and Ghana. And then they think of ways to explore the rest of Africa. And then they think European rights, they think North American rights and all of that. So I think that that's one of the things I want to see. And that comes with investment into platforms, investment into the technology of film. I want to see more people come into the film business as a business. So you see finance people coming into film business to understand how to work around the financing of Nollywood. You see people who are into auditing, not just coming as external consultants, coming into the industry to truly be a part of the industry and work to make the industry better. Those are things I want to see happen in 2025.
All right.
Yeah. And also.
Yes, go ahead, Ella, quickly.
Just to add to what he said, to also invest in the stories that we tell, because
invest
as much
in the stories.
We're like trying to be global, we need to make our stories, tell it in the most authentic way. We need to invest in like story labs, story development, and all of that. We need to take time to craft stories, that would, resonate in different parts of the world, and also film markets as well. If we can have some film markets here in Africa, on the continent, and I'm not talking Europe, I'm not talking America. If we can have something like that, and more streaming platforms like Circuits, like we already have Circuits, we can have more of that here on the continent, so that we have access to films on the continent, because it's a huge market here on the continent. So if we can have that, I feel like by next year. And
all right, thank you very much, Ella. Thank you very much for the conversation so far. Thank you very much, Desmond, and thank you so much, Obinna, for also putting in your contributions on today's conversation. We decided to look at Nollywood and see how the 2024 has been and how 2025 should be.